Good morning. I'm Ted Nixon. Most of you probably knew that. There will be no quiz at the end. But to those of you who are watching online, that's still my name, Ted Nixon. 43-year member here at Mountain Rise with my wife, Kathy. And if you don't know my name, you certainly know her name. We came here in 1983 because the Sunday school was at the same time as the service. That was our motivating factor, so we didn't have to spend that extra hour or whatever on Sunday mornings. But we got way more than that, way more than we bargained for when we came to Mountain Rise. We got support during some very difficult times, and we got some friendship through everyday ups and downs, and continue to get that. We keep coming back because Mountain Rise welcomes everyone, regardless of color, creed, gender, sexual orientation, or anything else that you can think of. I welcome all of you who came here to hear Fran Stiles this morning, but I am sorry to tell you that Fran is not feeling well. So I offer the fact that maybe you could pray for her and that she be back here soon, sooner rather than later, to share her story. And instead of Fran, Gary Schaefer has volunteered to tell his story. I've heard his story before, and it's very interesting, and we hope that you enjoy it. Let's share the peace of Christ with your neighbor.
We have two interviews this week, right?
Yes, we do. Tuesday, Wednesday.
Okay.
Straight on to the hen.
Say that
Should I
again.
go straight on to the hen?
Yes. I'll just announce it real
Oh, okay.
quickly.
Cool. Sounds good.
If you could all find your places again and join us in the singing of Jesus, Jesus, fill us with your love.
Okay, let me see. Thank you. That's better. Yeah, thank you. I will find out in about 35 seconds. Okay. Jesus, Jesus, fill us with your love. Tell us how to serve the neighbors we share with you. Knelt at the feet of his friends, silently washing their feet. Praise the Lord when I serve unto the Fill us with your love, show us how to serve the neighbors we have from you. Puts us on our knees, showing our faith on our knees, serving the neighbors we have from you. Jesus, fill us with your love, show us how to serve the neighbors we have from you. We lift the feet of our friends, silently washing their feet. This is the way we should live with you. Jesus, fill us with your love, show us how to serve the neighbors we have from you.
If you will join me in the call to worship, which is responsive. God abides spectacularly with those who choose compassion over fear. Our faith strengthens us for each day's living. The scripture readings today are several, and they're all about parables that Jesus taught. So, here's what he had to say. The parable of the mustard seed. He put before them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed that someone took and sowed in his field. It is the smallest of all seeds, but when it has grown, it is the greatest of shrubs and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and make nests in its branches. The parable of the yeast. He told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed in with 3 measures of flour until all of it was leavened. 3 parables. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and reburied. Then, in his joy, he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls. On finding one pearl of great value, he went and sold all that he had and bought it. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net that was thrown into the sea and caught fish of every kind. When it was full, they drew it ashore, sat down, and put the good into baskets, but threw out the bad. So it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come out and separate the evil from the righteous, and throw them into the furnace of fire, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And finally, treasures new and old. Have you understood all this? They answered, yes. And he said to them, therefore, every scribe who has become a disciple in the kingdom of heaven is like the master of a household, who brings out his treasure, what is new and what is old. When Jesus had finished these parables, he left that place. Our special speaker this morning and a substitute at the last minute, and I really appreciate, Gary, your standing in. And I just want one final reiteration of the fact that Fran can use your prayers, Fran Stiles. I'll be thinking about her. But I also would like to recommend Gary Schaefer to you. Gary and I have a long history. We go way, way back. Probably the highlight of our history was we were roommates in Honduras in 2012 when we went on our trip down there with the McLeans. And it was a wonderful time. Got to know Gary a lot better. You get to know somebody when they're a roommate, even for 3 or 4 days. He was easier to get along with than I was, I think. So I have to share his experience, strength, and hope this morning, Gary Schaefer.
Whew. Good morning. Good morning. It's really okay. Put the mic down. Is that better? Talk directly into it. And now I can't see my notes. Okay. Off to a good start. And as I said, I know that things are going to, they're just going to go the way they're going to go. I'm in a safe place. I'm with lots of friends. And I'm here with my God. And I'm going to talk about my spiritual journey. It's had some great times. It had some very rocky times. And now it just ebbs and flows. So, and I also want to remind people that there's a part of my story that will involve my family. Many of you that were here for a long time remember when the Schaefer family wasn't the present Schaefer family, but was the family that I was the father of. And so Shirley was my wife. She was a member here. And there were 3 children, Lori, Scott, who you know, and Heidi. So I don't dwell on a lot of that went on at that when I was at a low point in my spiritual journey, but they may be referred to. So I'm going to start out with my childhood. I was a product of a loving mother, father. I had an older sister by 5 years, so we didn't do a lot together. When she was in junior high and struggling with junior high stuff, I was, some little 3rd or 2nd grader. When I was struggling, she was on her way out of high school. So that's how that worked. My father worked for the New York Life Insurance Company in the office. He was a photolithographer, but he never worked for Kodak. We never got the big bonus that everybody looked forward to back in those days. And my mother was a stay-at-home mother most of the time, up until I was gone, and then she worked for a while. She was a great support. And so coming to spiritual part of it, I was a member of Greece Baptist. The family was a member of members of Greece Baptist Church. We attended regularly. I was very active in the youth group. We had Sunday school not during church. I was baptized. I went through confirmation, and I was baptized by immersion. That's the church where my Boy Scout troop met. Boy Scouts was a very important part of my growing up. I was very active. I had 5 years of perfect attendance at meetings. I went to every camp out. I went to Massawepie. I'm an Eagle Scout, and I also earned the God and Country Award. Instrumental in my upbringing. I had a paper route. I delivered the Democrat and Chronicle for 6+ years. The day I turned 12 and had a worker's permit, I started my paper route. And I did well in school, and I was on the Regents track, and I did my homework, and I prepared for class, and I participated, and I did all the stuff I was supposed to do. And so I include this because I started out, with a church foundation, a scouting foundation, strong parents, family life. And my spiritual takeaway from that was that the church was part of my life. But the important thing was that there was no hell. I was never told that I was going to do something. If I did this, I was going to go to hell, because there was no hell in the church or in my family. And there were no sins. There were mistakes that humans make. So those are things that I've brought with me and had no problem with that. I didn't have to have formal formal confessions. So looking back over this time, I did have some fears. I feared dating. I stayed away from sports. I was fearful sometimes if I fell short, but I got through it. So the 50s and the 60s had expectations on us males. We were supposed to do our best. We were supposed to graduate from high school. This is the people I hung with, the Regents Track kids. We were supposed to graduate from high school. We were supposed to go to college, get a degree. We were supposed to get married and have a family, get a job, and live happily ever after. Right. So I took my 18 years of values and my fears, and I went off to Heidelberg College in Tiffin, Ohio. And there's where I met Shirley my senior year. Got married a year later. And after 5 years of teaching, working, traveling, socializing, we started a family of 3 children, who some of you know. And if you come here on Christmas Eve to the candlelight service and to the services on Christmas Eve, you'll meet my entire family. My daughter and daughter-in-laws and all those people, they all mosey in for that service. And by the way, the other, Scott, but the other 2 children are also active members in their church. It's just not this church. When I was at college, I continued my freshman year going to church. There was a group of us who would leave the dorm and we'd go into different services at different times. My sophomore year, my roommate was studying to be a minister, and so I would go with him to different churches almost every Sunday. We would go together. But the key part of that, as I look back on it, is that although I went to church and I was, participating in the church service, I never got involved in church life. And so that's an example of just being passive. I can come to church, but if I don't get involved, if I don't do something, then I'm just, I have to be active. And so that was one of my takeaways on my spiritual journey from there. Time as a family, early on time with the kids, we played together, we did a lot of things together. I supported my kids in Scouts, all 3 of them. We joined Mountain Rise because we were looking for a church. We had not done anything from after we left college and got married. And then the day came when we thought we ought to have a church. And so Shirley found this church through a friend. And we came, and like Ted, we liked it for a different reason, but we liked it. So I became active in that Wednesday night kids family group that we had here that was very active with, I can't think of it. Anyways, it was a good time. I was active. We both taught Sunday school, and things went on. But that's when I started on my downhill spiritual journey, and that's when I started consuming alcohol. And it became a routine in my life. I would come home from work, and the first thing I would do is I would go to the liquor cabinet. After the kids' homework was complete, we had come home from different meetings. We'd come home from Little League or whatever activities the kids were involved in. I would then spend the evening after that consuming more alcohol. I consumed alcohol on weekends. I consumed alcohol prior to going out on any activity. And so a problem was growing. And I developed lots of character defects along the way because alcohol had taken over my life. My way, not God's way, became part of my spiritual journey. I was full of fear. I had an unbalanced ego. I became great at procrastinating. Why do something useful if you can drink? I took on some other character defects, like I needed to be right. I needed to get even. If somebody did something to me, I was going to keep track of that, and I someday would get back to you. I judged others. I took their inventory all the time. I kept score. If I drove you, you're going to have to do something nice for me. I wanted to be in control. And so these were just some of the character defects that I took on. On the outside, I still looked good to the people I worked with most of the time. I was a successful teacher. I earned some accolades there. I was an active scout leader and did a lot of great things there that I'm very proud of. I had a house. I had a family. The family was active. The family stayed out of trouble most of the time. But spiritually, I was dying. Yeah, I don't know. Well, we'll just stop on that one. I don't know what my kids, how much they were harmed by me, but I'm sure they were. I know that my wife was. I know Shirley was. I was a terrible husband. I spent all of my time doing activities with the kids and not with her. I didn't communicate well, so therefore we didn't communicate. It takes at least two to communicate. I did what I wanted to do. Sex was based on my desires and needs, not on ours. I ignored her needs. Beyond that, we'd go to a function that was with school friends or scout friends, and I would just abandon her and go off and do things with the group. And this was all due to alcohol that caused a lot of this. So in 1991, I had a horrific experience that on the way to Michigan for our summer vacation, I just had a terrible experience as a result of consuming way too much alcohol. And I ended up in the hospital in Sarnia. And Sarnia, Canada. And Shirley, and this led to the fall. Shirley and Heidi had a family intervention. And they knew that I was out of control. Laurie was off to college. Scott was in France for his junior year, first semester. He went over there for that. He spent the first year of his junior year in high school in France. And so we had an intervention, and I was compliant. I knew that I was in trouble. And I started attending outpatient treatment. I was introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous. But soon after that, within the next year, Shirley and Heidi moved out. I, again, went through the motions of attending meetings and going to outpatient treatment, but I wasn't active in working the program. Just like back in college days, I didn't participate in the church beyond going to the services. So Heidi and Shirley moved out, and we were divorced in 1993. For the next 25 years, I lived alone. I continued to work until I retired in 2003. I traveled. I remained active in scouting and did a lot of good things, as I mentioned. One of the things I did was I dropped out of Mountain Rise. I ignored a Mountain Rise for several years. And then eventually I rejoined it, but I was still actively consuming alcohol because I couldn't stay stopped. I attended AA meetings. I had an accident, totaled my car, lost my license, rode my bike around the community getting places. That didn't stop me from consuming alcohol. I would escape from family contact. Laurie and Andy would come and find me. They'd find me at Harris Hill Park. They'd find me in the basement. They'd find me at different places. And they just went through, I put them through not good times. It was a game to me. Do as I wanted. Continue to be the selfish Gary that I had been for 30 years. drink until I got caught, and then just kind of say, okay, I'll set a new sobriety date and I'll start over. I'll be good. I won't drink anymore. What happened was I lacked that spiritual aspect of true sobriety. I didn't have spiritual. I was not a spiritual person. But on May 9th of 2019, there was another incident. Whew. And it caused me to consider a new, different way, not my way. I look upon that as God coming into my life in a spiritual way. I knew I had to do something different. I had to let go of my way. And so I contacted Steve. Some of you might remember Steve. He took me to detox for 6 days. I was then dismissed from detox, but not into a in-care rehab, inpatient rehab. And so he took care of me for a week. He followed me around like I was a lost puppy, and I probably was. I was a lost puppy. We finally got into the Clifton Springs inpatient rehab, and I spent 28 days there. And I was home. I went back to my AA meeting, a different meeting, one that Steve introduced me to. And that spiritual awakening was not a burning bush like we read about in some of the Bible studies. It wasn't an angel descending upon me, as we sometimes hear in our stories. There was no flash of lightning. It was just something came upon me which I consider my spiritual awakening. And since that day, I have not only not had alcohol, but I have not even had a craving for alcohol. It just vanished, boosh, just like that. Am I cured? No. I need to rely on prayer. I need to rely on meditation. I need to rely on support from other resources. I learned that alcoholism is a disease. It has no cure, but it has a daily reprieve as long as I continue to maintain a spiritual, healthy relationship with God. God speaks to me through others, so I attend a Alcoholics Anonymous meeting almost every morning. We start at 6:30 a.m. So I'm up at 5:30 to get ready to go, to help set up, to do things. And I go to a few other meetings scattered throughout the week. I use prayers. I refer to the St. Francis prayer, the third step prayer that's recommended at the end of the third step in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I also use the Serenity Prayer. It's funny, my mother used to say the Serenity Prayer. I can remember saying it as a child, not over and over and over, but every once in a while she would, when things weren't going quite the way they should be going, she would refer to the Serenity Prayer. And I have to kind of laugh at that because she had never been to an AA meeting. People associate the Serenity Prayer with Alcoholics Anonymous. It was around long before Bill and Bob came along and said, let's get this program working. I believe that God has always been there. He kept me safe when I was not doing his work. I just ignored his presence. Today I'm a follower of Jesus' teaching, not necessarily Christianity. I believe that Christianity is a powerful religion, but I don't believe it's the only religion. I just happen to be a Christian because that's what my family I was born into. And I've stayed Christian because I can accept Jesus and try to follow his ways. By doing that, I'm open to others. This church is open to others. That's one of the things that I admire about us. I know people have needs, and so I try to fulfill some of the people's needs by driving them, giving them rides, but I don't keep track. I donate blood platelets because I know there's people out there that can use them that are mostly cancer patients. And they can use blood platelets, and so that's one way that I can give back. There are people with tougher times than me, and our church supports a lot of the groups, and I individually support a lot of the groups that I consider worthy charities. That's my way of just helping people who need to be helped. I need to tend to those character defects I mentioned before. They are still there. Judging others, keeping score, being in control. But today, I recognize them just like that, and I take care of it. So sometimes I just have to go into a meditation or into a prayer and just say, God, what do you want me to do? What's the best thing to do? And then help me do it. Be with me as I do it. But I need to take the action. My people resources include my church family, Stephen Ministries, worship services, Universal Justice Team, Bibles and books, the pre-worship Bible study on Sunday mornings, my spiritual growth group, and the search team. There's a group that keeps me spiritually fit. God has placed them there for me, and I need to take action and use them. In addition to my church family, I have scouters, I have my AA crowd, I have my family. My family is so supportive of me. They were when I was drinking. They are even more so now. I don't know if they're more supportive, they just enjoy it more. Is life perfect? No way. Life gets lifey. During the first 6 months of 2026, this is just the last 6 months, friends. I bought some baseball tickets. I'm kind of in charge of getting tickets for 4 seats for the season at Red Wing Stadium for 6 different groups of people. So 6 different groups of people buy a seat, and they rotate during a homestand, and they get to go. And I was all set when I bought them back in August of 25. But then a couple people said, well, we didn't really understand. Well, I don't think we're going to do it this year. So one person was willing to take one of the 4 tickets, and the other person wasn't able to take any of the 4 tickets. But my response to that was, I'll try and get people to go. Now I'm giving tickets away. I'll probably be swamped on those as I go to the parking lot. But I give them away. People say, what do I owe you? I said, just go and enjoy it. The money I lost on that deal isn't going to change my eating habits. It's not going to change my contribution to Mountain Rise. It's not going to change my, it's not going to change my life. I'm not saying that I love to give, get wrapped off with money, but it was. Back over the holidays, I've developed a neck concern. I started going to a chiropractor. I needed to have MRI done. I needed to have physical therapy, and that's finally started. But it's been a long process, and I could very easily have just procrastinated and not done it. I could have gone and had another drink, and the pain would go away. I fell. Some of you may have remembered that I fell back in April, and I went to the hospital for 2 days, and I had all kinds of tests done, and they told me that I probably shouldn't drive. As a matter of fact, the law says I had to report myself. Now, back in the days when I was drinking, I would have said, well, I'm going to continue to drive until I get caught. Remember that story back when but today I said I need to let them know. And so we've worked it out. I got permission from my primary care that with all the tests they did, I should be able to drive. I sent that to the DMV, and last week I got an okay from the DMV that I can drive. I didn't do it my old way. I lost my wallet. Had to change all the cards and all the all of that kind of stuff. And then just before I started replacing my driver's license, I found my wallet. But it doesn't end there, because by the time the next week, I got hacked on my computer, and I had to go through a lot of that same stuff again. So I used to say, why is all of this happening to me? Why is it happening to me? I seem like I'm always in the wrong place. Everything's happening to me. And today, I say, this is happening for me. So that's my ending part of this. I just want to end with that. If you ever get caught, say, why is this happening to me? What did I do? Why is God punishing me? He's not. This is happening for us. And from each of those examples that I gave you, that what's happened in the last 6 months of my life, I can take away and learn something from each one. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary, very much for your share. Let's sing together. Won't you let me be your servant? Won't you let me be your servant? Let me be your servant. We are pilgrims on a journey. We are travelers on the road. We are here to help each other go the mile and bear the load. I will hold the Christ light for you in the shadow of your fear. I will hold my hand out to you, speak the peace you long to hear. I will weep when you are weeping, when you laugh, I'll laugh with you. I will share your joy and sorrow till we see this journey through. When we sing to God in heaven, we shall find such harmony. When all we know together of Christ's love and agony. Thank you. Won't you let me be your servant? Let me be as Christ to you. Pray that I may have the grace to let you be thy servant too. As God has filled our lives with good things, let us open our hands to help others. Our gifts may provide for some the basic physical necessities, for others the depth of meaning to be found in a trusting relationship with God. Even more, we shall know the joy of giving. That's great. They have the same lyrics over and over again. So once you get it once, you're all set. God of wind and fire, blow through our sharing a sense of empowerment, both for us and for all who are reached through our offerings. Set us ablaze with eagerness to hear and respond to the message that you want us to carry into all the world. May many lives be touched and renewed today and throughout this season. Amen. We're going to have announcements now from Pam Reynolds and also Kathy Simpson.
Good morning, everyone. Isn't this glorious to be out here in the outdoor worship? It's so fun. My name is Pam Reynolds, just like Ted said, and I'm filling in for Dave today. Isn't it wonderful to be able, he just writes me a note, and here I am. So we want to welcome everybody. I was also greeting, and I think a couple people slipped by me, but and they're sitting over there, and I know they've been here before. So anyway, if you get a chance, we'll walk over and say hello. We welcome everyone to continue to celebrate our 30th anniversary of Mountain Rise, being an open and affirming community. And we also want to make sure you know about things that are happening this week. Sunday evening, as usual, we welcome the AA discussion group. On Tuesday, there are knitters for those of you who really have hands that need to move a little bit. And mouths too, maybe, I don't know. They have a good time talking. The striking strings rehearsal and the afternoon AA discussion group. On Friday, the Universal Justice team meets and the Romeos gather for lunch. Additional news is in your weekly newsletter and includes a notice of Nikki and Gail McLean organizing an October visit to our sister church in Honduras. And if you'd like to go with them, contact them for additional information. There's a quarterly report of the service and advocacy as found in the weekly e-news also. And tomorrow, Monday and Tuesday, there is a clothing distribution at the Salem Nutrition Center. And if you'd like to help, please contact Kathy Nixon. I also wanted to mention this just didn't happen suddenly. A lot of people came to do this morning, and we thank them for that. And if you're interested in helping during some of the services the rest of the summer, there's a place to sign up on the table up there. And that concludes the Mountain Rise News. Kathy.
Get a theme here where we have a lot of substitutes today? No, you're not a substitute.
You're the real boss.
Sometimes I wish I had a substitute. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kathy Simpson. I've been chairing the search committee now for 3 years. And the last few weeks have been intense. It's felt like a roller coaster, and it's been emotional for us. And if my voice cracks, it's because it's been very real for all of us. First of all, the good news, I attended a Zoom meeting that's put on by the conference ministry team every quarterly. So this is for churches who are in the midst of a search, and it's to be supportive and helpful and instructive. And so I was one of 4 churches represented. I think there were probably 5 clergy people there, so we were outnumbered. Couple are serving as an interim position. So the first part of the meeting was all role play between 2 pastors. And it was over the top dramatic. And it was like nobody would really talk that way to somebody. But it got the point across. And it was, the player was a search chair from Long Island confronting and attacking the conference minister. Like, where are the candidates? Why don't we have more? What's taking so long? And it was over and over. And the consistent measured response was trust the process, trust God is in this, and nobody wants to hear that. Thanks to Gary for that message today, that we do need to pay attention and think about, well, what are we supposed to learn in this? So it turns out that I was the search person who was further down the road in the search process. So I ended up being a resource for many of the other people. But that good feeling of how far we've come was short-lived, because within the next 2 days, one of our primary candidates withdrew. And we had, I can tell you this now, we had already arranged for a visit, and it was a week before the visit. So what are we to learn from this? This was a period of mutual discernment on our part and the candidate's part. Neither one of us were 100% sure, even though we had combed all the social platforms, listened to many sermons online, talked to all the references. We have to ask ourselves sometimes, are we expecting the perfect candidate? Are we being unrealistic? But we listen to all of you, and we listen to our gut, we listen to spirit. So the withdrawal, I think we're over that emotional hump. It was an emotional hump. So when I reported this to our conference ministers, to Gary Ferner and Ryan Henderson, Gary Ferner chimed in and said, and he wasn't accusing us of this, but he said, one of the biggest red flags for a candidate is sensing a church is expecting the candidate to be the white and shining armor who's going to come in and fix everything and grow the church. He said, they will run the other way as fast as you can. So he said, don't talk about that. If you are, don't do it. So we have gone through our profile as a result to make sure we don't have any of those red flag languages in our profile. We do have a couple of adjustments we're making in questions that we ask candidates in an interview to make sure we're not expressing that red flag expression. So the new language is, how are we going to partner to grow our church? It's not going back, hearkening back to the 50s and 60s of bringing in young families. That's not the way to talk about it. The way to talk about growing our church is, how do we do this together? And so that's really the big thing there. So following the withdrawal, within several days, we had 2 new candidates. And so we have those interviews coming up this week. One of the things I'm not going to talk about, and I wish I could, but I don't think it's fair, is when a candidate is going to visit. I'll talk about it in the past tense after it's passed, or if it didn't happen, that it was going to happen. But some of our candidates are very, very cautious and careful about confidentiality. They know people all over the country because of the conferences that they go to. And so I don't want to jeopardize any candidate in any way possible, that someone who knows someone here who knows about Mount Rise that would get back to, oh, I know someone was looking, but are they a candidate at Mountain Rise? That's not how we want to operate. So we're trying to do this ethically, spiritually. We ask for Spirit to be with us all the time, and we're grateful to have people like Gary and the others who all bring a spiritual grounding to our committee. So we ask for your continued prayers as we travel down this road together. Thank you.
A good segue into the next part of the service, which is making prayers. For those of you who are unfamiliar with it, we ask you to raise your prayers, concerns, or joyful celebrations using first names only, unless you have permission to use the full name. When you're done sharing, please say, God in your mercy, and we as a congregation will answer, Hear our prayer.
It was quite an effort to make that kind of presentation, and I am grateful. God in your mercy.
Hear our prayer. Prayers for Gary as the speaker. Hear our prayer. Prayers for the search committee. Hear our prayer.
Prayers for my friends moving to South Africa, whose last day preaching at their churches is today. God in your mercy.
Hear our prayer.
Prayers for Fran and healing.
Prayers for Fran.
God in your mercy.
Hear our prayer.
For two brothers who have health concerns, God in your mercy.
Hear our prayer. Two brothers of Wendy, health concerns.
Prayers for my friend Kathy receiving treatment for ovarian cancer. God in your mercy.
Hear our prayer. Prayers for Kathy's friend receiving.
Prayers for Ron. God in your mercy.
Hear our prayer. Prayers for Ron.
Prayers for our nation. God in your mercy.
Hear our prayer. Prayers for our nation. Hear our prayer.
Prayers for Julia in her move. God in your mercy.
Hear our prayer. Prayers for Julia in her move. Hear our prayer. Prayers for Sydney, our granddaughter who graduated on Wednesday. Hear our prayer, the 51st wedding anniversary. Congratulations.
Prayer of thanksgiving for all the wonderful musicians that come to Rochester. God in your mercy.
Hear our prayer. Thanks for all the wonderful musicians of the Jazz Festival. Prayer, hear our prayer. Prayers for Veronica. Good judgment.
Prayers of thanksgiving to be married to the same woman for 45 years. God in your mercy.
Hear our prayer. 45 years of marriage. Congratulations. Hear our prayer. A husband that someone we know is going to be 88 tomorrow. You don't look a day over 86. Anybody else? Okay. Join me. Our Mother, our Father, our Creator, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. as a blessing, even though the choir's not here, I'm going to quote one we sing. Go forth into the world, rejoicing in the power of the Spirit. Thanks be to God. Thanks be to God. Thanks be to God. Amen.